Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening,
Yes,
ma'am.
good evening, ma'am.
Okay, so we have to start with our Express.js, right? We have already covered till routing parameters and query parameters. And even we have done the middlewares also. So any doubts still here? Okay, so we will start then. Hello. Yes, Akriti?
Um, Ma'am, in Express.js, it has some topic like template engine.
That is EJS.
Yes, ma'am. Can you explain it? Ma'am?
Yes, it is a later topic. I will try to cover it by tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have covered till here the middlewares, error handling middlewares. And today we will start with serving static files. So let's start. Express can serve static files like images, CSS, and JavaScript using the built-in express.static middleware. We have seen few middlewares that Express provides us, which was JSON, .URL encoded, .static, and .router. By .json, whatever input that we give is in the JSON format, and in the URL encoded, it is the way of giving the input to the Express in the form of some URL encoded format. Usually it is in the HTML file only, but in this case of static files, it includes all the static files. That can be HTML file, CSS file, JavaScript file, or even if you want to give the images as the input. So that all are being handled by this dot static function. Let's see best practices. Place static files in a dedicated directory, commonly public or static. Mount the static middleware before you routes. Consider using a CDN in production for better performance. Set appropriate cache headers for static assets. To serve static files such as images, CSS files, and JavaScript files using the express.static built-in middleware function. So they have given the example over here. First of all, they have just required the libraries that they would need and then using the express.static function to access the public folder. As they have suggested that we should keep all our static files inside our public folder over here. So they have it required from this particular statement. Then they have also given the virtual path by slash static and using this particular path, which is express.static path.join directory name public. We have seen in the node module where in the path module actually that whenever we use this path module, we can directly access to the directory name. So over here, they are trying to access the public folder. So that is why they have written express.static path.join and the directory name, which will be public over here. Then they are trying to use this get method in which they are sending this particular statement in which the first is the heading static files example. Then there is this image and some CSS and JavaScript files have been linked over here. And all this is being served at the port 8080. Let's see its example over here. So you can see over here, the H1 heading is static files example. And there is this very light image of W3 Schools logo only, which they must have edited by using the CSS and JavaScript functionality. So that is how static files can be um, rendered on our web page. So we will also perform one of the activity for that. Let's just create the folder saying express.js. And inside this folder, I will install package modules. Then I will install Express. So I've got my new modules and package.json over here. So now in this folder, I will just create one of the public folder over here. And inside this public folder, I will be having one index.html file that will serve as the static file for me, one about.html, style.css file for the styling of our page, and one of the folder for our, let's say, images, assets, and inside this we will be having logo, some image. We will just download that and then we will put inside this assets folder. And to run our server file, I will be having one main file inside this folder, which will be app.js. So that will be serving a my main server file for me. So let's just add few text over here about in the about.html. First index.html, getting the template, and then inside I will just make the changes, dashboard, h1 tag, welcome to dashboard, one p tag. This is this rendered using express.js. Okay, so that will be our first index.html page, and there will be one link that will just redirect to our about.html file. So that will be a link href inside which I will just provide the address, which will be about.html. About page. So that will be index.html. Then coming to about.html, same format, about page, heading. You are in about section, and then one of the paragraph. So that will be about.html, index.html, giving some styling properties. Let's say the body, giving the font family, just the default settings for now. Will be fine. Text align to center. Then for the H1 tag, let's give the color. Some dark purple will be fine. Next will be our anchor tag. Display to block or inline block. Text decoration none. Color to blue. Fine. Giving some background. So that will be a CSS file integrating in our main file. Link style.css. And over here also link style.css. In our about page, just add one more link that will just redirect to our index.html. That will be back to home. Fine. Next, let's just add one image over here. We will just download it from Unsplash. Just download in your folder only in which you are currently in. Projects and tutorial in my Express.js, in my public folder, and in the assets folder. Assets folder, I will be having logo. Let's see if this will be rendered or not. We will try that. In our assets folder, we will be having one image, which is in AVIF format. And we will just add this in our main file, let's say. Index.html and welcome to the dashboard. And before that, we will just add the image. And source will be from the assets folder, logo.avif, and alternate will be logo and width can be 200 or 100. Fine. So that is our main thing. And now we will try to render it an R using in our app.js file. So for that, first of all, requiring the Express library. Giving the creating the app instance using const app and using directly app.use. Over here, you will see we are not giving any path over for now. just express.static and public. And after that, listening to the port on, let's say, 3000 console.log. Let's run this. Node 1 app.js. Server has started on the port 3000. Let's come to our browser. See, we have our main file, which was the dashboard. You can see over here, we have not rendered any of the route over here. We have not created directly. We have just tried to read the static files, and that is directly coming on to our main dashboard file. When I will just click on this particular button, which is the about page, I will be redirected to my about section. About section, you are in the about section of my website. Coming back to our home page, it will just go to back to home, and I will be in my index.html file. Can you see that? So that is how we read the we use the express.static function, and we do not have to provide any route, any get method or post method. We can directly render our main file over here. So I will just paste the codes over here. First of all, this is the about section. So just create one folder, or you can add directly use wherever you are in the current directory. Just make sure your express.js is being installed in that particular directory, and in the about file, your index.html file, and style.css file. Just download one of the picture from unsplash.com, and then you can directly re-render that one also. Make sure you make changes in your assets folder. Like I have rendered my logo.avif. So make sure you write the correct path, then only it will be rendered correctly. And my app.js file, the main server file. Try this at your end also. Just see if you are getting the correct output as I'm getting. Are you all able to understand this? The use of express.static, how it is reading the static files, and you should make sure that whenever you are trying to read the static files, you should be in the public folder. And it is a very general way of creating your directories in your local system. And whenever we have any image files, then we keep those files in the assets folder. So that is why I've created the assets folder, and make sure you are uh, copying or pasting the same path of your image. Then only it will be rendered correctly. Is it okay till here? Okay, so just try to um, execute these codes and let me know if you're getting the getting the correct output, and just paste your screenshots over here only. I'm moving forward. Let's come back over here. So next is routing and separate files. So we have seen three middleware functions. First one was express.json method. Then we have seen express.static static and also express.url encoded. Now we will see the routing, express.router function. So what is this? What is the use of this routing or express.router function over here? See, whenever we create our main website or full-fledged project of our OneStack, then we use this routing method. What is this routing method? We use separate files for separate routers. Like for example, you can see over here, they have this routing in separate files. For better organization, you can define routes in separate files using Express Router. So in the routes folder, they have this user.js that will be that will just handle all the routes for the users. Like the root folder, first of all, that will be users homepage. Then there will be one of the route that will just check for the user's ID. And next is the products folder. So that will one, it will be having the products routers like the product root route and the product ID folder. Then in the app.js, in the main file, what we do mainly is that we all create the routers in the app.js, but we do not want to make our app.js file look very complicated. We see what happens is whenever we make any project file, let's say, so what happens is that we create all the like we intact all the important points like about our project, what technologies we have used, where what references we have searched for, and what are the snippets of our code, what is the what were the problems that we have faced, all the things we write in our in different pages. But there is one index file that we create for our project file that just lets the other person know that what are the different topics you have. For example, over here in this website also, we have multiple articles over here, but they have just created an index file over here that just lets us know that what are the different topics that this particular module has. Right. So this is the same thing that we would want for a add.js file only. Whenever any person would try to see your code, so he will just get to know about what were the different dependencies you have used in your project by just seeing your app.js file, which is main file only. So he will just see what are the different dependencies you have used, what are the different routers you have used, what were the different models or constructors or the controllers you have created. All these things, all these informations he will get to know from this app.js file only, right? So that is why we use this particular separate routing files method. So over here you can see, first of all, they have just imported the different libraries, creating the app instance and providing the port number over here. Next, what they have done is they have just used app.use method to get all the users routers, and they have just imported this user router file over here that they have created initially over here. What is this user router? This user router is just handling all the routers from user, and they have imported this user router from the routes folder and the from the users.js file. Similarly, for handling the products routers, they have imported products router, and in the products router, it contains all the routers from the routes folder. And inside the routes folder, we have this products.js file where they have all the routes for the products, and they are being stored in the products router and they are using it over here. And then this is the root route that we will always create for our website, and then listening to the code. So let's just see over here how we can do this. First of all, this will be our main app.js main code that will handle all our routes, the main file, main server file. Next, I will just create one routes folder over here, routes folder. And inside the routes folder, make sure you write the same name. I will just create the users.js and the products.js file. So inside routes, I will create users.js file, and one file will be products.js file. So now I will just put these codes over there. So this will be my users code that will just handle my users routers. Okay, this is my products file. This is my users.js file, and one will be the products. So it will just carry on with the products routers. And now I will just save this code in the routes folder. I think I have created the routes folder in my public folder. That is why it is giving the error. And now it should not give the error. Yes. So in my 8080 port, my main application homepage, moving to the users router. This is my user's homepage, giving one ID to my user, let's say 4567. And this is my user profile for ID 45677. Going to my products route. This is my products list. And going back to like trying to access one of any product. So this is my products details for ID that we have given. So that is how we can provide the separate routing over here. If I try to explain you this particular router, these different products on JS and its users.js file, what is happening over here? First of all, it is requiring the express library. Then just because we have to use this express.router function, we have used this router folder. Router, so this is the way of creating the router instance like we were creating the app instance over here. Over here, we write const app is equal to express. Similarly, we have written over here const router is equal to express.router. So this is creating the router instance. Now this router variable will be used every time whenever we will create any um, route for this particular products um, folder, products file. Next, if in the same over here also they have just required the express library, then they have created the router instance. Then they have also given this middleware that will just console about the date, about the current date that will be there for the whenever I will try to access any users router. And then defining the routes also, you can see they have just used the router and specifying the route route, and in the second route is for the particular ID. As you can see over here, all these middlewares and even the different routes are all being created using this router variable, that is by creating the router instance. So that was all about the okay, so you all are getting the results. That's great. Okay. Create the folder in the same level as your app.js file. And inside your routes folder, this will be your users.js file. And your products router. Inside your routes folder, this will be your products.js file. Are you all able to understand these two methods? Express.static and express.router function. Is it? I'm getting very few responses. Is it something that I should re-explain? Or you have any doubts? Anything you want to ask? Just let me know. So I'm taking it as that you don't have any doubts. I will just move forward then. So next is template engines that Akriti just asked. It is a kind of thing that we use the EGS. So let's see what this is. So what is happening with the EGS that it provides us with some templates with the to generate some dynamic HTML, and then we can directly use it in our website. Okay, so before that, we will just cover the middleware concept and then we will come back to the EGS because that is a different library. And then we have this. So they have just given you how you can create RESTful APIs and Express application generator by using the Express over here. So then we will start with middlewares. Do you have any doubts still here with any of the methods of Express? Like we had four methods. Anybody just tell me the different methods and the use of different methods so that we can move forward to the next article. Anybody can unmute themselves and just say the answer. Am I audible to you guys? Okay, so just list the different methods that we have seen in the Express to handle different kinds of input. .json URL imported express dot static. And what is the one method that you are skipping that we have just covered? Tell me the uses of these methods. Okay, so basically express.json will be handling your JSON formats. URL encoded will be handling your HTML files, which are said to be as URL encoded format. For the express.static, we will be handling the static files that can be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or image files. And by using express.router, we create the routing um, by creating the separate routing files like we have just seen, right? Yes, is it clear till here? Okay. So starting with Node.js middleware, we have seen middleware that it just plays the very important role between the request and um, the response. And middleware is a key part of Node.js web applications, particularly in Express.js. That is the one of the application of Express.js that it helps us to uh, create some middleware, some extra functionalities to our main website and main pages. It provides a way to add and reuse common functionality across your applications, routers, routes, and endpoints. So these are the key characteristics of middlewares, like executes during the request response cycle, can modify request and response objects. That is what the one of the main function of the middlewares. Can end the request response cycle if in case we are having any request that is pending or something is pending or something is that has access to the request object, the response object, and the next middleware function. So you can see that this particular function is the middleware by just by just seeing the next function written over there in the application's request response cycle. So middleware functions can perform a variety of tasks that can be execute any code, modify request and response cycle, end the request response cycle, and call the next middleware function in the stack. So let's see. Think of a middleware as a series of processing layers that requests pass through before receiving a response, like an assembly line for HTTP request. In simple words, I had given you an example yesterday about the movie theater situation, that when you have purchased the ticket, there is one person that will check your tickets. Then when you will enter inside, there will be another person that will check whether you have had any whether you have carried any food items, and then only when you will pass all these two middleware people checks, and then only you will be allowed to enter the movie theater. So movie theater will be response from their side, and the request from your side will be the that you want to enter the movie theater and watch a movie. And for that, they have just uh, made some checkpoints to give you a response, right? So that is what they are saying, that these are the different processing layers that exist between the request and the response. How middleware works in the request response cycle? Middleware functions are executed in the order they are defined, creating a pipeline through which request flows. Like we have seen, if the first person is checking for the bill, for the ticket, the next person will be there for the something else checking. Then similarly, the other person can be there for some other checking. So that is how middlewares are. Each middleware function can perform operations on the request and response objects and decide whether to pass control to the next middleware or end the request response cycle. If in case you have passed the request response cycle to the middleware 1, then it will just redirect you to the middleware 2. So that is how middleware chaining will be. And if I want to get into this movie theater, so that would be request. Pass through each middleware in sequence. Different checkpoints will be there. Route handler process the request. So each of the middlewares will be handling your request and will provide you with the response whether you are allowed or not. So that will be then you will be redirected to a path. So if in case you the first checkpoint is cleared, he will redirect to you the path where you have where that will reach to the movie theater. Similarly, the second person will allow you, then he will redirect to you the path reaching to the exact movie theater. So that will be path for you. Response flows back to the middleware in reverse order. So that is how the response will be there. And then response sent to the client. So they will just let you know that whether you are allowed or not. I hope you are able to understand by the simple example, by visualizing it as the situation and then creating a link with the middleware also. Then there is this basic pattern of middleware. So this is the kind of syntax that we use while creating the middlewares, like app.use. So they will just take three parameters that will be arguments over here, which will be the request, response, and the next. And this next will be the will be the signal that this is the function called as middleware. And this call next to pass control to the next middleware function. It will just redirect the execution of code to the next line of the code. When you call next, the next middleware in the stack is executed. If you don't call next, the request response cycle ends and no further middleware runs. By this, you can just visualize it as if any of the checkpoints are not cleared by you, they will just redirect you to the outside of the gate of the movie theater, and that will just end the request response cycle from there and end. Then we have this example which will just show you how a simple middleware chain is. First of all, just creating the app instance and then creating the first middleware. That will just say middleware 1, this always runs. Because since it is the first middleware, you will be checked by this middleware. So this will be the middleware that will always execute. Second middleware, if in case you have passed the first middleware, then it will just check that this also always runs, and then the route which will just say hello world. So let's see what that will print. First of all, it will be server starting. Middleware 1, this always runs if in case the middleware 1 has passed, because we have not provided any checkpoints for now. It is just consoling, so automatically it will just execute the second middleware also. That is why they have written this also always runs. And then after that, when all the checkpoints are met, then you got the response like hello world. Let's just run this in our system also. In our main file app.js, we will just make some changes, saving it. So I will get server running on port 8080. Let's just go to the main home page. Then I will get the request. So now moving to the root folder, that will be my request from my end to the browser and giving the request. So I can see the hello world, but in the backend, what is happening? It has checked me with middleware 1, this always run, and middleware 2, this also always runs. So that is how middleware chaining will be done. Okay. Is it clear, the middlewares? Okay. So let's see the different types of middlewares now. So there are multiple middleware types. Let's see the first type, which is application level middleware. Application level middleware is bound to the Express application instance using app.use or app.method functions. We have seen whenever we just create any like middleware, it is the basic level middleware, which is the application level middleware. What is the use of application level middleware? It is used for logging, authentication, request passing, and any other operations that should run for every request. Best practices: define application level middleware before defining routes to ensure that they run in the correct order. So just know that what is the use of application level middleware. So these are because these are the middlewares that will run every time the request will be made. So it is the so these middlewares you can think of it as the first middleware that will just check every person whether they have the ticket or not. So that is why they should be used wisely, and like for the logging function, for the authentication function, because whenever you go to any website, the first thing that you do is the authentication of the user. That is why the such functions are being handled by application level middleware. So for creating the application level middleware, you just have to use this app.use method. That is why over here they were writing that this always runs, and even the middleware too also always runs, because we have not provided any checkpoints over here, and also we have used this dot use method that is telling us that it is a application level middleware that will run definitely by every request. Next is router level middleware. So these are works similarly to application level middleware, but is bound to an instance of express.router. So what are the use cases? Grouping route specific middleware, API versioning, and organizing routes into logical groups. What are the advantage of these router level middlewares? It will provide with the better code organization, modular routing, and the ability to apply middlewares to specific route groups. Like for example, over here we have seen when we have given the code for the modular routing. By modular routing, I mean that providing the routes for different situations in the different files. So that is modular routing. And now if I want to use any router or create any router for the user's router, I will just use it over here. Even they have given the created the router also for the user, which is router.use. And if I want to create any middleware for this product section, I will be able to just create the middleware directly over here also. So that is how routing level middlewares help us. So they have just given the advantage, and they are bound to an instance of express.router. Even here also they have just tried to implement the router level middleware, which is bound to this express.router. It will just give us the signal that this is the router level middleware. Just a way of using it, creating middlewares, and if they have been bounded with this particular function, they will be called as router level middleware. Next is error handling middleware. We have already seen. The only difference will be there that they will be having this ERR argument also apart from other arguments. So error handling middleware is defined with 4 arguments and is used to handle errors that occur during the request processing. We have already seen this yesterday. Some of the key points that they have is they must have exactly 4 parameters, should be defined after other app.use. Why is that so? Because see, whenever we will create all the middlewares, all the routes, so we want our error handling feature to be handled at the end only. So that is why it is saying that it should be written after app.use. After all the routes are being implemented, then we will put a checkpoint in the at the last. So it can be used to centralize error handling logic and can forward errors to the next error. So for example, if I put any error over here, so first of all the lines of code will be executed, and then if in case any error occurs, so it will directly redirect to my error handling middleware by just giving this next function over there. So it is just the way of writing, organizing your code, that first of all your application level middleware should come, then the routing level middleware, and then after that error handling middlewares. So we have already seen these 4 built-in middlewares, the JSON that will just pass the JSON request bodies, URL encoded, dot static and dot router. Then comes the third party middleware. What are these third party middlewares? we have some extra middlewares that are already encoded, and we directly have to use them. Like the Node.js ecosystem offers numerous third-party middlewares packages that extend Express functionality. Like popular third-party middlewares are the Helmet that will secure your app by setting various HTTP headers, Morgan for HTTP request logger, Coast, which will enable Coast with various options when you will try to integrate and your front end and back end. Then you use this cause middleware, which is very prominent. That will you will see. It stands for cross origin resource sharing. Then is this compression, which is compress HTTP responses, and cookie parser that will also be used by you while integrating some authentication in your website. So that will just pass cookie header and populate the request.cookies method. So when you will just use these middlewares, the main very popular middleware that you will use will be the course and the cookie parser. Course will be used to when you will have your front end and back end both, and you will now want your front end to take to access or to give the result to the backend, and backend will try to take the input from the front end. Then you use this cause, and cookie parser will mainly be used by when you will implement the JWT authentication. And then what happens is that this cookie parser generates one cookie, and that particular cookie checks for the authenticated and unauthenticated users. Okay, is it clear till here? The different kinds of middlewares? Is it clear? Okay, so just list the different kinds of middleware to me and their usage. Anybody can unmute themselves. Salman, can you do? Tell me the different kinds of middlewares that we have just discussed. There are few middlewares that you are missing, Akriti. Yes. And built-in middlewares also. What is the use of error handling middleware? Yes, Satyam. Use of error handling middleware? Yes. And it will have four arguments over there. Handle errors. Yes, that's correct. And what is the use of application level middleware? Custom middleware. What do you mean by custom middleware? Yes, app.use is the method by which we implement application level middleware. Auth middleware. Yes, so that is by using app.use. Whenever we provide any authentication or logging functionality, that is done using app.use, and which is a application level middleware. Main thing that you should remember about application level middleware is that it always executes whenever the request is being made by the user. It is the kind of default middleware that will run every time the request is being made. Yes? Okay, so I'm moving forward. Then they have just given the different examples how you can implement the logger middleware, authentication middleware. Like over here, what is happening? First of all, they have just created the app instance, and then you can see that they have implemented a function which is authenticate, and that is the authentication middleware. How we can see that it is an authentication middleware? Because they have written next function. They have called the next function over here. Inside this, first of all, they are trying to request the headers dot authorization, and that will be stored in the auth header. After that, if in case auth header exists, so it will just say authentication is required. By authentication header is that the request has not signed up to the website, and that is what is saying that if this auth header does not exist for the user, it will just give the um, a message to him that authentication is being required, and at the backend it is the 401 that does not found. Next, it will check for the token that will auth header will generate, and it will be just split. So this is the function to check for the authorized and unauthorized user, and if this token exists, that means that authentication is successful, and it will retrieve the information of that particular user, the user ID and the username. If in case the token does not matches the secret token that we will mention in our uh, env files, that then it will just call the next function, and next function will just check for the will give the error that invalid token, and the user is not authorized, he needs to do authentication. So that is how authentication is being done. Over here, they have just provided the public route, which will just check for the just know tell the give the message welcome to the API public area, and in this particular route, which is API protected, we'll check the authentication. So since we have already created the authentication middleware, to use this authentication middleware, they just have to pass this authenticate name of which is the name of the function, and then it will perform the functionality. So that is how we create middlewares and use the middlewares. It is just the example of the authentication that they have created over here. Then you can just see how different middlewares can be used by different application for handling errors, for execution order. So they have just given the examples over here. You can just check it out at your end. Apart from that, the only thing that you should remember the different kinds of middleware and the how you can use them. Is it clear? Just let me know. Okay. Moving to RESTful APIs. So now we will understand the RESTful APIs, which is also one of the application of Express.js, that it allows us to create RESTful APIs for the backend. So what is REST? It is representational state transfer, which is an architectural style for designing networked applications that has become the standard for the web services. RESTful APIs provide a flexible, lightweight way to integrate applications and enable communication between different systems. So, what are the core concepts in the RESTful APIs? Resources. Everything is a resource like user, product, order. All these will be resources. Representations. Resource can have multiple representations, that is JSON, XML, etc. By representation means what kind of input that we are giving to the APIs. Then we have this stateless, which is each request contains all necessary information. Uniform interface, consistent way to access and manipulate resources. So inside the RESTful APIs, we will perform the CRUD operations. By CRUD, I mean create, read, update, and delete operations on the resources which are represented as URLs. Next is REST is stateless, meaning each request from a client to a server must contain all the information needed to understand and process the request. So here are a few core REST principles, and we have this HTTP methods and the usage. So let's see what are the core principles over here. It is resource-based, stateless, cacheable, uniform interface, and layered system. By stateless, we mean everything is important. Each request is independent and self-contained. Resource-based means focuses on resources rather than actions, because that is how REST principles are. They will just perform the operations on resources, which is the data that we will give. Cacheable responses define the cacheability. Uniform interface, consistent resource identification and manipulation, and layered system. Client doesn't need to know about the underlying architecture. So RESTful APIs basically let us create the APIs, let us perform the functionalities at our backend, and that is why it is saying that client doesn't need to know the backend thing, what is happening at the backend. So let's see the different methods. Uh, we have already seen the get method, post method. So what is the get method used for? It will retrieve the resources by the whatever information exists. It will just retrieve that particular information for us. Next is post. It will create a new resource. Put will be to update a resource completely, and patch is to update a resource partially. So that is the main difference between the put method and the patch method. Both are doing the updation, but put method will be updating the resource completely. Everything will be kind of overwritten. But in case of patch, only the specific functionalities will be updated. Next is delete method that will delete the resource for us. Let's see this example over here that is trying to implement all the different methods over here, creating the app instance. Next, they have tried to implement the middleware that will take all the information, all the inputs in the JSON format. So inside this users variable, they have tried to give the input already, which is two inputs they have given, John Doe and Jane Smith, and they have the ID, name, and the email as the inputs inside the JSON format only. Next, they have tried to retrieve all the users by using this dot get method, because that is what the use of dot get. It will just retrieve all the information for us. And request response dot JSON. So the response will be in the JSON format from the users variables. This users is being passed over here. Next, they are trying to retrieve a specific user, and that is done by using the providing this particular ID. So that is how we will see this. First of all, it will retrieve the information inside this users variable, and they have implemented users.find method. Inside this users.find method, what is happening? First of all, it will request for the parameters from the ID. If in case you are in the route, which is API and users, and ID is 2. So first of all, it will retrieve the ID. That is done using request.params.id. We have already seen. because it is a kind of routing parameter only. So it has requested for the ID, and then pass int is being used. It is converted to int, and then it is checking for this UID. If in case it matches, then it will just find then that particular ID will be console in this user. It will just give the error that user is not found, and if be stored over here. ID that is not present in a database exists. So it will just give the error that user not found, and the status is code is for else 404 for the user not found error. And if in case the user exists, it will just give us the output over here. Next is they have implemented the post request. So now they are trying to create the new user. That is what post method does for us. It changes the functionality. It process the it kinds of creates new requests. So they have created the new user, have provided the ID list. So whatever the users array is, over here we have two length for the users array. So it will just give the ID3 over here and request or body of name that we will provide and the email that we will provide in the JSON format, and it will just create the user over there, and it will just push the this new user to our users array. That is by dot push method. And in case the user will be added, it will just give us the status code 201, and new user will be added to that. Next is the put method. If in case we want to update a user completely. So first of all, it will just retrieve the ID, similar way we were trying to do in the get method. And so they have tried to retrieve the information of that particular user, which we want to update. If in case the user does not exist, so it will just give us the error that user is not found. And if the user exists, we will just provide these new inputs and it will automatically update it. Next is dot delete method. It's to delete a particular user completely. To delete a particular user completely, the user must exist in a database. That is why they have written the similar kind of code lines to retrieve the index, retrieve the information of the user that we want to delete, and to delete the information, to delete the user from an array, they have used users dot splice method. So this will just delete or remove the last information with the information from our that particular information, not the last information from our array, and user index has been passed. So it will just delete the user. So let's try to see this in our system also. So it will be in the route API users, saving it. Let's give the response to slash API slash users. So we will move to slash API slash users. It must give the request in the JSON format. Let's see. Try to test it at your end also. There's some network issue, I guess, that this part is not running right now. App.js server is running on. Oh, I have made changes that in the users.js. I had to make changes in the app.js. Saving it. Test API server running on the port 8080. Coming back to our, so cannot get. API. Okay, so checking in our browser, coming to API/users. So you can see over here, I am getting the response in the JSON format because I have used a response.json method over here. Um, see response.json, and I'm getting the users information. Let's go to users and the particular ID. Let's say one. So I'm getting the information about the first user. We have John Doe and the email. Trying to access the wrong user, let's say 4. I will get the message user not found. That's what we have in written, given the code over here. If in case the user is not found, I will get the mirror message user not found. Next, if I create the post request, let's check this out over here in our under client, giving the new request in our. So I will want to check the post request for my uh, API and the users. Users, it will be a post request. In the body section, I will provide the inputs for the name and email. So that will be my input in the post request in the slash API slash users, sending it. Why is there a bad request? It is a JSON format. That solution code. Uh, can you see, is there any error? I guess I am giving the right format, but still it is giving me, okay. Now it should not be clear. Name has not to be in the codes, I guess. It is to be in the codes only. Line 3. Yes, now I'm getting the response, which is ID 3 and the new user. Let's try to retrieve some other, give the any other input. Ravi, automatically ID will be 4 now, 4@gmail.com. Trying to get the users now, retrieving all the information that we have, sending it. I will have 4 requests now. Let's test it over here also. Refreshing the page. I am having my 4 users over here. Let's check other APIs also. App.js. So that we have checked the post request. Now I will want to check the put request. Let's get the changing some updation over here. in the request for the slash API slash users and the particular ID. Let's try to change fourth user, or let's say I'm duplicating the input now. So the fifth user is having the same information. I would want to change the um, input for this one. So for the fifth user, I would want to give the put request. Name can be a third, let's say, and the name will be email will be athar@gmail.com. So for this particular five, giving the response, fifth is athar and athar@gmail.com. Let's try to retrieve the information now. Trying to give the get request, retrieving all the users, and now I will have the new updated version for my particular ID 5. Let's check this delete one. Giving the post request, duplicating the value, I will have ID 6. Retrieving the information, I will have my duplicated value. And now I would want to delete this particular ID, which is 6. So giving the delete users 6 and delete request thing. So this has been deleted, and trying to take the get request now for all the users. I will have my 5 users only over there. Yes, yes, I have got that. Are you all able to get this? Okay, good. Just create these screenshots over here also. Is it clear till here? So that was HTTP methods and their different uses that we have seen. Next is RESTful API structure and design. We have already seen these are the different design considerations, like how we can provide the resource naming, providing the routers and all. Building RESTful APIs with Node.js and Express.js. This is very important while creating your whole full-fledged web applications. Like Node.js with Express.js provides an excellent foundation for building the RESTful APIs, and the key components are Express routers that we create, middlewares, controllers for handling request logic, models that will define the database design for you, and the services, like what will be the functionalities you are adding. So that is how a normal project structure looks like. First of all, the main server file. Then this will be the routes folder that will handle the different routes for your web application. Next, they have these controllers that will request the handlers, user controllers, product controllers, and similarly the models. What are the schema that you will define for each of the like user and the products or different resources that you will have in your website. and the middlewares folder that will check for different middlewares. And after that, config, which is gv.js and env.js, that is whenever you do the deployment, and there is something env file that we will see when we will perform the we will complete the mongoose. That is where the configs folder helps us, and then the utils. In case any error handling thing that is to be done, it is put in the utils folder. So that is how a normal project structure looks like. Let's see what they have tried to set up. First of all, they are trying to set up the express router, which is the modular routing method. They have created the app express app router instance, and then trying to import the controllers that they have tried to create, which is get users, get user by id, create user, update user, delete user. As you have seen that they tell us what is the use of controller. It is helpful to make the request. If in case I want to get all the requests, like I was trying to get over here, so this is the request that I'm making. The same format, the same code is being written in the controllers file. Then if in case I want to access any particular user by their ID, that will be inside get user by ID function. If in case I want to create user, which will be the post request, it is inside the create user, update user, which will be the put request, and the delete user, which will be delete request. So all these methods that we have written over here, it should be ideally inside the controllers file. Like this particular will be in the update user, this will be in the create user function, and the all will be integrated inside, will be kind of imported in the routers folder. So now they have created 5 routers for getting the users, getting user by ID, creating user, that will be inside the home directory only, and updating the user and deleting the user. Now they have written the normal module.exports to router so that we can import it somewhere else. And then after that, they have given the user routes and then listening to this particular port over here. Now they have also implemented the controllers over here by in the controllers folder. In the user controller.js, they have tried to implement the get user function that will check for all the users by user.find all function. Next is get user by ID that will check for the particular ID. First of all, it will check by this user.find by ID method, and it will request for the particular ID by request.params.id method. And if in case the user does not exist, it will just give us the error user not found. Otherwise, it will retrieve all the errors. And it is also handling the error retrieving user, and the error message will be consoled. Next is this create user. That is for the creating the user. And it is also requesting the body. And if in case any error occurs, it will just console the error. That is how a basic folder structure looks like, and it is basically it is giving you the intro of what is the use of controller and how controllers are being implemented. Let's create this one in our system also. So whatever we have written, all these functions should be in the controllers folder. But we would need the models also. We will do this when we will perform the mongoose. After that, we will perform this activity in which, because see, we can perform the controllers function right now. Okay, let's try this. We already have given this particular demo database for now. All this will be in our controllers, and inside that, user controller.js. Pasting it over here. Now creating the routes for us in the user.js. Our users.js express implementing trying to require, since I have my controllers and routes folder at the same level, that is why I have to change the path over here. Controllers, and inside the controllers, I have my user controller.js file. Saving it, and now inside my app.js, I will just write the routes implementation, which is this. First of all, importing the routes folder, routes for all the routes, and rest.json. So I have implemented my user routes. From the routes, and the name of the file is users only. Inside my slash API slash users, I will check for all the routes. Let's see. There must be problem in the path, I guess. In my controller, it should be the function now. I will just take the this one only. Get user by ID, and the delete creating the user. That is for retrieving all the users, and then getting user by ID and creating the user. Let's save it. In my router, I have implemented my users. It will be used, I guess. We will need the model over here, I guess. That is why it is not retrieving information for us for now. Okay. We will continue this activity once we will create the see the how models are being created for mongoose, and then we will perform the same. Okay, so you all are getting the results from the previous code. That's good. Okay. We will continue this activity about retrieving all the information once we will create the models for our um, database. Like we have to implement the model, then a minute. Have we imported the users routes over here? In our routes. Users.js we have imported. Yes, we have imported. Okay, we will continue this activity later. But for now, just understand how what is the project structure we usually have, like routes, controllers, models, middlewares, and then config folder and the utils folder. So that is how we implement the different structures, and different structures are being created for the full-fledged website. Okay. Okay. So let's cover this authentication system also. Like I have already told you about the JWT authentication and how cookie password is being used. Let's get the overview about this one also. Like what is API authentication? See, whenever some of you have already implemented this feature already in your projects that I have seen in this particular week only. So what that happens whenever we create website, the first thing that we do is the authentication, like sign up login page over there, right? So how it is being done? How we will know that this user is authorized, this user is new to our, by authorized, I mean that this user has already signed up to our website and his information already exists in our database. So that is user, we developers, we name those users as authorized. If in case any new user comes to our website, that is for now at the very initial state, it is he is unauthorized. But once he is signed up, he has done sign up to our website. His database, his information credentials exist in a database, then he is the authorized user. So how we will implement that? We will just see the overview over here. Like API authentication is the process of verifying the identity of clients accessing your Node.js APIs. This comprehensive guide covers various authentication methods. So what are why API authentication matters? In today's interconnected world, API security is not optional. It is a necessity because we do not want our credentials to be uh, eavesdrop by others, or any of our passwords get leaked. So that is why API authentication is very important. We do not have an option to whether API authentication is required or not. It is definitely required. So what are the security benefits? It access control, restrict the API access to authorized users only, data protection, safeguard sensitive information from unauthorized access, identity verification ensures users are who they claim to be. So this identity of verification is done usually by the cookie parsers that you must have, so some of you must have already done. And these are the few business benefits also, like track API usage by user or application. Whenever you go to YouTube and you watch any particular video, you get recommendations from that particular field only. So that is the business benefit that they are. So they basically track the usage of your, like what is the uh, interest right now you are having in the YouTube section. That is why. And similarly, their AI, their model and algorithm recommend you the similar kind of videos. So this is the business benefits. Monetization, implement usage-based billing models. In case you are, for example, using AI, ChatGPT API key, they just see whether you have access the all the tokens that you have for free. Then they give you the pro code, like pro feature, that now you have to convert your whatever you are currently trying to access in the free, you will have to now convert it to your pro mode. So then this is compliance meet regulatory requirements. So that is the business benefits. And we have some authentication methods overview, different methods. Like first one is the session method. It is the traditional web apps and the complexity is low. Also the security level is medium. The most prominent authentication method that we use is JWT token based, in which the complexity is medium and its security level is also very is high. API keys, we have got some API keys, but their security level is low to medium because those API keys are not handled and controlled by us. And whatever we do not control, we cannot rely on it completely. That is why its security level is low to medium. But O authentication 2.0 is the most is having the very high security level. and it is also very best for the third party access. If in case your website will be thrown to some new users, then O authentication is very much required and very much used there. Let's see how session-based authentication is being required. It is the previous and traditional method that was used in the early days, but now we have switched to JWT authentication. But at least we can see how they have implemented. First of all, it is the very basic thing. They have used the session express session library to implement this, and body parser library is being used. Creating the app instance and passing the request bodies, like trying to uh, take the two methods, two different kinds of input, which is .json method and .url encoded method, and using it in the session, providing the secret. Then this your secret key will be used over here to check for the authorized. If in case any user is already authorized, he will be having this your secret key, and that will be used to check whether this that particular user is authorized or not. So they have given the sample user database, and when he will try to log in, that particular key will be used to check for his verification. If he has already signed up to your website, he will have the same your same secret key. Like over here, first of all, request.body is being used to retrieve the information, which is username and password. Now it will check for the user if the same username he has given and the password he has given is right or not. If in case it is not right, he will the website will give the message invalid credentials, and if in case it is correct, it will just retrieve the information to the backend, and the message will be there in the front end, login successful. And in the profile section, he will be able to check. He will be able to get his own profile. If in case the request.session.user does not exist, it will be unauthorized. That means that he has not yet signed up to our website. And in the post request, they have given the logout route that will just log out him, and it will he will be redirected to your main dashboard, and the message will be log out successful. There is this another method, which is JWT authentication. JSON Web Tokens provide a stateless authentication mechanism that's compact and self-contained. Unlike session-based authentication, token-based authentication doesn't require a server to store session data. This makes it ideal for stateless API architecture and microservices. In the session-based architecture, they were saving the information into the data. But now token based authentication, only the token will be used to check for the authentication. Like the everything is same. In place of session library, they are now using the JSON Web Token library, and the body parser library is basically used to retrieve the information. Like if you are seeing this request.body function, it is done using this body parser only. So they will just provide this particular secret key, which is your JWT secret key, and this will be used now. In the case of login, first of all these things are same, and creating the payload for the JWT and signing token. Like you can see over here, first of all, the payload has been created for JWT authentication, and this token will be checked now. The token JWT.sign function is being used. Payload will be given whatever the username exists, whatever he has given his credentials, it will be in the payload, and then it will check for the JWT secret as argument will be provided, and it will expire in 1 hour. What does this mean? That once the user has logged in himself, his uh, timing will be up to only 1 hour. After 1 hour, it will automatically be log out. As you must have seen, if you go to any website, your login remains for any or for any specific time. After that, when you go back to that particular website, you have to re-log in into that website. So JWT authentication provides us. This is same example that you will see in every other websites also. Even there are middlewares for JWT verification, like I have told you that application-based middlewares are being used to create the authentication, and that is where JWT is very much used. Like they have just using the token only to check for the auth header, like whatever information the user has provided. And next comes the OAuth 2.2 authentication. For that, you will have to install some of the dependencies. and then O authentication will be done using the Google API. Like we will have the client ID, client service, fallback URL. That is a very advanced for now. Just focus on the JWT authentication. Once you get comfortable implementing the authentication using JWT, then you can move to O authentication. Okay, so just try to explore the JWT. Whatever, if you have any of the projects that you have done for this week, try to implement them at your end. If you are able to do it, that's great. And then you can explore the O authentication. But for now, if you are new, you just try to do the JWT only. That was how you will be implementing authentication system to your APIs. Once you have created the APIs by using the RESTful methods, which were the get request, post request, put request, and patch request and delete request, then you have to provide the authentication also. It is like if you are building your house, you have built all your house, but now you want a lock system for your house. That should secure your house. It is the same kind of thing that now you have created the different web pages for your routes. It is like your home is the whole full-fledged website, and the rooms you have built inside that house are the routes over there. And for each room, you will be building the doors also. Those will be the authentication system for each of the room. And similarly, in the website section, the whole website will be there. You will have multiple routes for this. To implement some authentication for each of the routes, you will need a authentication system. That is done mainly using JWT, but there are other methods also that are session based or O authentication. And the API keys are also being used, but its security is is from low to medium. That is why we don't use that. You must have seen sometimes that whenever, like, okay, let's try to take the example of Amazon only over here. If now I want to place any order, but I am not right now logging to this particular website. Like it is saying, hello, sign in accounts and lists. So it is asking me to sign in, but now I'm not logging to this website for now. And I will just try to place any order, like going to bestsellers. Let's try. I want to place any order for this trolley bag. Going to add buy now. And now he will ask me to get sign in first. See. So that is what they have done over there at their end that first of all, I have to log in into this page, then only I will be able to place any order. So this is the authentication they have done at their end to just implement that only authorized users. That means the users who have logged into their website will only be able to place the order. Yes, is it clear till here? Okay, so that is all for today. We can now wrap up this call. Thank you for being till the end. And if in case you want to ask something, then you can stay. Otherwise, you can now leave the session. Thank you. Bye bye. Others also, if you have any doubts, you can ask. Otherwise, you can now leave this session.